Good morning. Good morning. It is Tuesday, March 11th, 2025, and this is Training Wheels. It's offered through I Am an Open Door, Reverend Cindy Krupp's website, in which we get together and talk about all things spiritual from every angle possible in the most loving and friendly way. So, welcome this morning. We are on lesson 24. I do not perceive my own best interests. For those of you who are joining, if I cut out, it's because Fidium is working uh, on our cable, and it's possible that they may cut me out. So don't be surprised. But hopefully, I'll be with you the entire time, except I do have to leave at about a quarter till. I have a meeting at 11. So let's get started now and just have your seat, and you can keep your camera on or you can turn it off. I'm going to go through the first 23 lessons and then we'll start on this one. As I said, I'm going to turn my camera off. As I said, this is, I do not perceive my own best interests. What a threat to the ego, isn't that? That's a wake-up call to the ego. So settle in, feel your rear on the seat of the cushion or the chair, feet on the floor. Let your shoulders relax and soften the heart. And notice the breath. Nothing I see means anything. I have given everything I see all the meaning it has for me. I do not understand anything I see. These thoughts do not mean anything, and I am never upset for the reasons I think. I'm upset because I see something that isn't there. I see only the past. My mind is preoccupied with past thoughts. I see nothing as it is now. My thoughts do not mean anything. My meaningless thoughts are showing me a meaningless world. I am upset because I see a meaningless world. A meaningless world engenders fear. God did not create a meaningless world. My thoughts are images I have made. I have no neutral thoughts. I see no neutral things. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my seeing. I am not alone in experiencing the effects of my thoughts. I am determined to see. I am determined to see things differently. What I see is a form of vengeance. I can escape from the world I see by giving up attack thoughts. I do not perceive my own best interests. I do not perceive my own best interests. Have you ever had the experience of being disappointed about something that has not gone the way you'd hoped, only to discover in retrospect that it was actually in your favor? If so, you've had a direct experience with today's lesson. For the past 3 weeks or 23 lessons, A Course in Miracles has emphasized two ideas that appear to be opposites. First, we create our own separate reality, and second, we are one. Here is how they're related. If I perceive only separateness, that is what I will perceive. If I perceive myself without direct connection to my source, then I will not perceive my experiences as a part of the whole. In other words, I will not see, as Endago has taught us, that everything is for me. Imagine the universe as an immensely complicated piece of woven cloth. This planet and everything on it is but a strand in a single thread. The personal self is completely unequipped to perceive the whole cloth. In fact, it thinks its little place in the thread is all there is. So it travels blindly along, confused, hurt, and angry when it bumps into things, unravels itself, or gets all tangled up. Its limited information, which it is convinced is all the information there is, makes self-guidance risky at best. There is another way, but it requires admitting the egoic mind knows nothing. There are 5 practice periods today, each 2 minutes long. Your eyes will be closed for this practice as it is a form of meditation. Take your seat and close your eyes. Take a few deep cleansing breaths, and now place half your awareness on the breath and half on feeling within your body. Watch your breath and sense your internal state of being. Just relax into this now. You can give yourself a minute or two just to sit like this, noticing and feeling. When you're ready, repeat in your mind, I do not perceive my own best interests. And now allow whatever arises to arise. If it's a conflict or an irritation, all the better. It doesn't really matter what it is. Just look at it. Any small problem, any change, any resistance. Just look at it and consider how you would like it to be resolved in a way that most benefits you. Perhaps you want a new contract to be signed this week, or a check to come by a certain day. Perhaps you're arguing with someone and you want your idea to prevail. Be clear about your goals for each unresolved issue. You may have more than one goal for each situation. For example, you might say in your mind, in this situation involving blank, I would like blank to happen and blank to happen also. Let's take a minute and just play with this. Just allow whatever comes up to come up, something that you're resisting or that you would like to change. Think about what you would like to have happen differently than is happening now. If you're practicing sincerely, you will probably realize there are lots of things that you want to have happen. Some of those things might even be in conflict with each other. It may come to you that your goals aren't really as clear as you thought they were. It might also come to you that no matter what happens, you won't be fully satisfied. And that's okay. Don't get attached to any outcome. This is just an experience. When you've created your list of goals or outcomes for the situation, just say in your mind, I do not perceive my own best interests in this situation. If you can remember to do this 5 times today, that will be great. Just sit for a minute or two with any conflict and let it touch you, let it rise up, and then repeat in your mind, I do not perceive my own best interests. This is a quote from the 2011 movie, The Best Exotic Marigold Hotel. Most of you probably know this quote. But Evelyn says, nothing here has worked out quite as I expected. And her friend Muriel responds, well, most things don't. But sometimes what happens instead is the good stuff. And then Sonny pipes in and he says, everything will be all right in the end. If it's not all right, then it's not yet the end. Everything will be all right in the end. If it's not all right, then it's not the end. When you're ready, come on back. Let's talk about this lesson My guess is that you probably have many examples, each one of you, in which this lesson has proven true for you. This lesson kind of reminds me of the Larson cartoon. I don't know if you're familiar with Larson, who does these great cartoons, but there is a boy, a large boy who is, David knows, a large boy who is trying to pull a door open, and the the heading above the door says "School for the Gifted" or something like that. And it says pull on the doorknob, and he's trying to push, and he keeps trying to push, and he keeps trying to push. This is what we do, you know. This is what the ego does, thinking that it's so gifted and it knows the answer to every single problem. And this is what I love about Indigo. Everything is always for me. That is the essence of this lesson. Rana, come to the head of the table.
Good morning, everyone. Yeah, this is a really good lesson. I found sitting with it for a moment, I had a neat experience because when I asked myself, what do I want? And then the only thing that really rose right now was in reference to my mom, right? And immediately there was that sense that everything is exactly the way it is. You don't have to fix anything. So then I sat and I was like, well, what does it want? And I'm just looking around. And right now, I have everything I want. I'm just in this phase, could change 2 hours from now, but it has been lately that I'm just really sinking into what is and knowing that what is good. When I think about what the ego has labeled from past experiences, some of the things, of course, that I thought were the worst things that happened, actually, I can see now were turning points in the spiritual journey. Like, I'm not sure I'd be sitting right where I am if I hadn't had my last night before recovery, and hearing that little voice, the gig is up, you've got to tell someone. I'm not sure that I would be here right now had the world experience given me a beautiful special needs daughter that brought me to my knees, in surrender. And so all of these things are gifts, but in that moment, like the ego always is afraid and is always saying there's harm here. This is going to be bad. So I think that is the pointing for me, is to remember, in my experience, what I've found is the first thought is a wrong thought. It's like that first, ugh. And so I can let that thought come and see what happens next. Don't panic on dry land with the first thought. So thank you. It's great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you, Rana. It reminds me of I think it's a Buddhist story about the little village where this old man and his son live, and they have a small farm, and they're really poor, and the horse goes lame, and all the neighbors come and say, "Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. It's too bad your horse went lame. Too bad, too bad." And then a week later, the emperor declares war and wants everybody to donate their horse to the war effort. And then the neighbors come and say, "Gosh, isn't it great that your horse is lame because it can't go fight in the war and you get to keep it?" And then the the son falls and breaks his leg, and everybody says, "Oh gosh, it's too bad your son has fallen and broken his leg." And then, oh, the story just goes on and on. But it's exactly that. We just never know. Michelle, what you got? Good to see you.
Hey, good to see you. Good morning, everybody. Amy, I love that story, and I love that the farmer each time they say something to him, he says, "Oh, it's not good or bad."
Yep.
I love that. And Rana, I really appreciate your share. Because I was during this meditation, as Amy, as you pointed out, I thought, oh gosh, yes, such a long list of all the things that I've seen in hindsight that have been just beautiful spirit blessings, and how my myopic view was very myopic. And then I was blessed to see and feel that it was all for the good of this beautiful tapestry being woven. But as I as I sat here, I came up with three things. I'm like, these three things are very, very spirit inspired desires. And the three things are like, really, I mean, it's funny what my ego is doing here, right? Because I'm like, I feel that this would be a very good thing. This and I can tell you the three examples. Like, if all of my like, this is how I think this should go down, with with the screens, with the teens, and with um the other two things, whatever, it doesn't matter. But my ego, it's playing with me a little bit, and I'm like, okay, all right, I see what's going on here, sort of. Do you know what I mean? So
Absolutely. Absolutely.
yeah, thank you for listening.
Thank you. I would just say the same thing as Rana. The thing that got me on this path was absolutely devastating to my ego. And I will never forget it. And I thought it was the end. And I thought it was so unfair and so unjust, the worst possible thing. You know? And that's when Eckhart Tolle got handed to me. You know, my life was going to end. And that's what got me right here. So we don't know.
Well, and sometimes I'm listening to a Jan Fraser book on Audible right now, and I just wonder, why so much. It's just the perennial question, since the beginning of time. Why so much pain before the beauty? But it's, and she talks a lot about, it's her book about fear falling away. She talks about how, she says, in my life, she's like, really? I mean, really, how simple is this? And I went through all that hell, and then, and then she reconciles it. But I don't mind it so much for me. I really don't. And I know I've shared this with you all before, but it just is so painful for people. We're one, but for you to watch your kids go through it.
Mm.
Um, people you love so much. But then I return to the fact that spirit is, God's got it. Spirit's holding them. Spirit loves them far more than we can, you know, fathom. So, okay, I'm going to stop.
Yeah. 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 Livy just sent some of us, I think maybe you too, Michelle, a really great Helen Hamilton satsang. And it just confirms what we all already know, that everything that comes to us is in our favor. And there's no way that we can see it because we're sort of walking backward into the future. It's just the experience that we are choosing as all that is to have. We're choosing to experience limitation. But this, resistance is futile is absolutely true, because there's nothing worse than the feeling of futility. And so when we resist and we resist and we resist, then the feeling of futility arises. And that unfortunately becomes our teacher. Not unfortunately, actually, it's a gift, right? Because the suffering is the teacher. And Eckhart Tolle talks about that a lot. Suffering is often our first and most powerful teacher. But once we learn what the truth is, suffering isn't really necessary anymore. It's not that we cease to suffer, but we recognize it, and then we dance with it. We realize, oh, what am I resisting? We know exactly what to do with it, right? We don't resist our own suffering. We allow it in. And then it moves on. So what is being resisted now in your life? Is there anything that you're resisting now that you think is not in your own best interest? I can think of so many things. David.
Ruthie, I'll come. I'll come back later.
Okay. Okay. We'll wait for you. Yeah, I mean, the current state of the world is, I perceive to be something that I don't want. And then I find myself looking for the silver lining in what's going on in the state of the world. And then I think, well, is that just my ego trying to assuage itself? Trying to make itself feel better? I can go around and around on that one. David.
I'll try to get through this. What I was thinking is my problems are things that I have made up just so I can feel okay by solving them. But what happens is, these problems are just like, shadows on the cave wall, so to speak. And it's like, I don't want to solve them because, it's almost like these are validations of, life is horrible and it's so hard and I can't do anything about it. And it's almost like I want these problems not to be solved to validate that. And that's so screwed up. But sometimes, that's what came to mind because I know I do that sometimes, at least from time to time.
Thank you. That is very true. So the blue book says, in no situation that arises, do you realize the outcome that would make you happy? Therefore, you have no guide to appropriate action and no way of judging the result. Michelle.
Okay, could you read that again? That I have never heard those words. That is very interesting to me, and I have a question. If you could please read it again after.
Yep, absolutely. This is a Course in Miracles. This is in the blue book, the Foundation for Inner Peace, the FIP, I guess.
Mhm.
In no situation do you realize the outcome that would make you happy. Therefore, you have no guide to appropriate action and no way of judging the result.
That is, wow. I mean, that's a big wow. So my question is, what about, well, that's very humbling and actually very comforting. But what about these little epiphanies, like these little spirit inspired moments where you're compelled. So I guess um yeah, what about that? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. I do. Yeah, I'm sure. So this is the duality of the course, which is sometimes confusing for those of us who really are on the non-dual path. So when it says, in no situation that arises do you, right? Yes, and Kay wants us to share the Helen Hamilton video, which we could do.
Okay.
So in no situation do you, and that's the personal self, in no situation does the egoic self, the egoic you, realize the outcome that would make you happy, the egoic self happy.
That makes sense.
Therefore, you, the egoic self, have no guide to appropriate action and no way of judging the result. That being said, when you realize that you are not the doer and that you make no decisions on your own, and that everything is the one, and that is what you are. There are no separate beings. There are no separate choices. It's all happening now.
Mhm.
Then that raises the conflict above the battleground, right? Then the question really becomes a moot point, right? The issue becomes a moot point because everything is for your benefit. There are no decisions that have to be made, right?
That's
And yeah, does that help?
much clearer. Yeah, thank you. But yeah, please continue. You were going to say, and
Just, and we have to keep coming back to that over and over and over again. Right?
for sure.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you. Patricia,
Good morning, everyone. It's wonderful
good
to
morning.
be here and to see your great faces. My God, such love in this room. I love it. I'm just wondering, I'm trying to sum this up for myself. So when I surrender into the moment of, and really the moment is, I don't know. I don't know what's next. And if I allow that, because the ego goes away at that moment, I don't have to know.
No?
I just have to be.
Right.
Do I get that right?
Yes. And there is even a further step though. We are the moment. We are the moment and everything that is happening in it. That is what we are.
Can you please say more about that, about what you mean?
We are the space of awareness in which all phenomena arise, right? So whatever arises is just arising. We may not know why it's arising. We may not know what it is for, but we do know that we are the space of awareness in which it's arising. And whatever happens is fine.
Okay. Thank you.
right? There is no problem to solve. Right? It's perfectly possible to look on the phenomenal experience, the reality, and merely know that it's there. That's what's arising now. I'm the awareness of it. And there's another quote, when it comes to this situation around X, around my health, say, there's nothing my holiness cannot do. Right? That's a Course in Miracles quote. When it comes to this situation around my health, when it comes to this situation around my car, when it comes to this situation around whatever it is, there's nothing my holiness cannot do. What that's actually saying is there's nothing when I see myself as whole, complete, the one, there's nothing that I cannot accept. Right? When I realize I am the awareness in which all arises, that's the holiness I am. That awareness, pure consciousness, pure awareness, unlimited, indivisible, infinite awareness. So when it comes to any situation that is arising in this awareness, there's nothing this awareness cannot hold within it.
Well, may I comment again on something? Even with decision making, in riding around in this bodysuit, and this bodysuit may need to make some decisions. It's like letting those decisions, or the possibilities, I like to think of them as possibilities. They don't need to be solved by me.
No,
Get out of the way.
there is no me.
Okay.
There is no personal self. You know what? This is such a freeing thing, Patricia. We think we have to make a decision and then we are responsible for the result, right? That's completely not perceiving your own best interests. Something arises, a situation arises in our awareness. It appears that a decision has to be made. We can stop and say, let me make this decision in my holiness, make the decision, and then whatever happens as a result of that is also arising in your awareness. It's absolutely perfect. Whatever the result is will be as perfect as the choice you make. That you cannot make a wrong choice. Right?
That's reassuring. Thank you.
It's such a freeing thing. Yeah. David.
Well, thank you. I mean, when I said what I said earlier, I was trying to purge that out of myself. I mean, but then when you just said there is no me, it's like, duh, what, all the crap that I've been putting out is poor me, but there is no me, that's just, like I said, I did recognize that it was egoic. So there's that. But it's not, it was like me with an ego. If there's no me, there's no ego. And so
Exactly.
that's the solution. Just get over myself because there's no self.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And I just really encourage folks to watch that Helen Hamilton video, because what she's saying is what we say to each other all the time. I look out at all of you and I'm looking at myself. I am all that is, and that is you and you and you and you. And everything is myself. Having this experience, this never-ending, unlimited experience of apparent differences, apparent time, apparent limitation, but it's unlimited. I'm the unlimited self that's giving myself this experience. And it can never become boring. It can never end. And aren't we, when we realize that, just so in love with ourselves? Like she says, I'm so in love with you, and I'm so in love with you. And everyone I see on the screen, I'm so in love with you. And I will never not be in love with you. I will never get bored with you or somehow put qualifications on my love for you. It's impossible to do that. And every time I forget that I'm in love with you, I get to rediscover it again and again and again. How fun is that?
How do I find that Helen Hamilton video?
I think Livy put it in the chat.
Oh, she did? Okay.
Yes, I think she's got it right there. Message from the self to the self.
Oh, okay. I see it now. Thank you.
Yeah, it's about a half an hour long, and it says it's just such a gift that Livy's given, that Helen's given. It's all right there. We are always in the upper room, right? We're always in the kingdom. Cindy, do you want to take this over at this point so that I can get ready to move out?
I can
I
do
want to
that.
just say thank you to all of you. Beautiful, beautiful. Again, thank you so much. Great questions.
I've just been sitting and being and listening. There's something I want to point out as I wait for the next hand to hold, and that's if there's anything in you right now that sits here that says, maybe I'll get it when I listen to the Helen Hamilton video or go back and read the course again, I just want to suggest that that's coming from that same energy that's refusing to just be here now. Like yes to the listening of the Helen Hamilton video as it arises, or the guides, or being with whatever book calls you in the moment. However, if there's a part of your mind right now that says, this is really interesting, but I'm not getting it yet, but perhaps when I listen to that video, just know that that's that same aspect of mind that refuses to rest in the here now me.
Love us.
Yeah. I had an experience today that feels appropriate with all of this. What I am discovering is that that aspect of self absolutely cannot exist. That aspect of self we're talking about can't exist here now in what I'm calling the here now me. It just doesn't know how to do it. In my dyadic experience this morning, I had 34 minutes of the 40 minutes in this space of pure inquiry. It was extraordinary and it was disturbing. This ability, this sense of just being here and reporting what was here now. And then we're heading into my last share, and all of a sudden it drops, right? This sense of, after the dyad, you can respond to Jeff this way, and don't forget to be in the training wheels, and later try to make this. And somehow I started to feel better, more solid. And there was also this sense that, oh, Spirit gave me the answer to how to make today, Cindy's day, better. And then it hit me. And just this understanding that that was the ego again hijacking the moment. Right? The liberation isn't about making the ego's life easier or solving the body's problems. Liberation is allowing for the experience of knowing that there is no separation between the body and spirit. And notice how often the mind wants us to keep the two separate when it's not. And that was I was like, and then it was like, oh shit. So here the system was feeling better because it was thinking about the future. That's what was happening. That's what was noticed this morning. This system felt more solid because it had a plan about what to do in the future. The ego mind, in by definition, I'm starting to understand, cannot exist without the past and the future. It must either be ruminating on the past or trying to figure out a future problem. It doesn't, it doesn't, it has nothing that it can hold on to without those two things, as comfortable as it may feel. Yeah. Richard hasn't spoken yet, and that's sitting here anticipating for when he does.
Hi, everybody. I love you all. Busy day for me. So, I love all your shares and thank you for sharing.
Thank you. Please, Patricia.
I'm looking at Anka in that white chair and the color around her. She looks like a queen. Anka, you look like a queen.
It's Alka.
Oh, Alka.
That's it.
I'm sorry, I mispronounced your name. Alka.
That's okay. I've heard many versions of my name. So that's
Won't
fine.
forget Alka.
Thank you. Thanks. Well, as I'm unmuted, I just wanted to share that things are a bit stormy around me at the moment. And after having gone through all the usual attack thoughts, negative thoughts, etc., 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 for a bit, I actually realized that things were happening without me doing anything. Everything that had happened by itself. So I really need do nothing at all. Just sit back and watch what's unfolding because it's going to happen whatever I do or not do. So it's helped me get back to my calm place and just watch things. Yeah. I'll talk about it more at another time, but I'm just watching everything at the moment, just watching things unfold. And there was, and your email that said, I will God to take over and undo all the mistakes I have made was just great, really great. So it put in words what was already in my mind after having gone through all this turmoil. So thank you very much for that. Thank you.
that was yesterday's conversation, which was a phenomenal one. So if you're inspired, go ahead and watch yesterday's replay from Where the Rubber Meets the Road. It's already up. Two things as I was listening to you, Alka. The first is Regina Dawn Akers once gave me this image of this liberation practice. Anyone who's taken, I think it's in the True Discernment course, that if we look at our sense of self as a glass jar of water with the mud on, and the mud is packed on the bottom, as we rise in consciousness, one of the things that happens is the jar gets shaken up, right? And so now this, what appeared to be clear water is now all muddied and chaotic. And that's our opportunity when we just rest as being and recognize that all is always well, then that mud gets clear, gets transformed. Since God always is, nothing ever gets lost. It just gets transformed, rises in consciousness. If on the other hand, we look at the muddy water and we say, no, 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 I gotta fix this. The activity is pounding that mud back to the bottom of the jar. And at another time it could be shaken and maybe we're ready to sit in the chaos and allow things to be transformed and the vibration to go up in consciousness. The other thing that came up while I was listening to you came from Helen Hamilton's that song that we listened to and talked last week when someone asked her, isn't there some time when the body has to go to the hospital? Somehow that one line from that podcast has really hit me. Like, sometime don't we have to do something, right? Which is, Patricia sort of asked that question, and I hear egos and I hear people ask that question all the time. Like, I still got to get along. I was talking to someone this morning. She said, I'm making mistakes at work. I still got to figure out how to survive in the world, right? And Helen Hamilton said to her, if a hospital is needed, the body will make its way there. And something about the way she said that just went, Trisha, go ahead. You'll have to unmute if you want us to hear what you're saying.
That would be a good idea. That was a good idea to unmute. So is that sort of saying just get out of the way and just accept what is?
Not see, from the point of view of what we're talking about right now, it means be here now.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah.
The aspect of the mind that thinks it has to figure it out is not useful. I'm never perceiving my own best interests. Have you ever noticed my own best interests seem to keep me separate? Like that, when there's that, for me anyway, there's this sense that somebody else has to change or the world has to change or I'm a victim of the world or I have to figure out a better way of doing something so that I can somehow get along with the world in a better way. It's always a me and a not me. And that's that sense of separation. So I have no problem ending this meeting a few minutes early if there's nothing else to be said, or sitting in silence for a few minutes, or hanging out waiting for Sandra to raise her hand because it's usually around now. Look at Barbie. I'm open to whatever's next.
Is there a good something cool you could play us out with?
Sit here and allow for that to happen. I know what song just came to mind, so I could go grab that. Give me a second. If someone would like to speak into this space, I'll find it and then stop the record button.
I'd like to remind everyone that our next meeting will be at 12 Eastern Daylight Time,
Ugh,
12 stepping.
man,
So
I can't-
that's 1 hour and 5 minutes from now.
Alrighty.
getting
I'm gonna,
used to the time. Because it's 8 o'clock. I had to come and visit with a cup of coffee, of course. But I wouldn't miss it.
all right. It's just a song, so I don't have to play the video. I'm gonna stop the recording. I love us.